Well, our first story is somebody that many of you may know in town, who is, I would call him a fixture in Prescott. Certainly one of our most well-known individuals, and certainly he's known internationally. And I won't say anything else, but please give a warm Stories That Matter welcome for Mike Vax.
Well, for those of you that know me a little bit, you'll know that it has to have something to do with music. And I'll preface it by saying, for those of you that aren't true big band fans, you may not know the name Stan Kenton, but he was one of the biggest bands of the whole big band era from the 40s, and his band actually lasted until 1978. It was one of the few big bands that stayed on the road all of those years. Well, when I was in high school, I was planning on being a classical symphonic trumpet player. And there was a very famous trumpet player that came to our high school to do a workshop. His name was Don Jacoby. And he heard me play, and he found out that I was a Stan Kenton fan. And he said, "Kid, you have to go to the summer camp this summer." It was at Indiana University. It was only the second year of the Kenton camps. It was 1960. And I was 17. I was just graduating from high school. And I didn't know anything about it, so he had them send me all this information. And I finally called him and I said, "Mr. Jacoby, we just don't have the money. I can't afford to get all the way to Indiana and go to this wonderful camp, and so I'm going to have to, turn it down." And Don Jacoby was a real curmudgeon. And over the phone, he sort of yelled at me and he said, "Just get there, kid." So my uncle bought me a train ticket from Oakland to Indiana. And I got back there. I was one of the younger ones. Most of the people were college age that were going to those early clinics. And I got put in on lead trumpet in about the third band out of 12 bands. But Connie Condoli and Jimmy Maxwell, who were two very famous trumpet players, were the teachers. And I don't even remember my audition. I was so scared. I just remember walking in, and Connie said, "Oh, you're Jake's kid," because Don Jacoby had called him. And so I made my student band. I made a band that did a lot of improvisational stuff. And it turned out that the Kenton band needed a fourth trumpet player. So they put me on the Kenton band. So I got to play Understand when I was 17 years old. Changed my life because, as I say, actually it almost ruined my life because, you see, if I'd have gotten a job with an orchestra, I would have had a steady job all these years as a jazz player. But seriously, it changed my whole way of thinking going to that camp. And at the end of that 2 weeks, I went up to Stan, and I was even shorter then than I am now, and he was 6'4", and I look up at him and I say, "Mr. Kenton, I'm going to play on your band someday." And he was great with kids. So his answer was, "Well, if you want to bad enough, you probably will." I was 17. You know what I heard? Stan Kenton said I could play on his band. So after 5 years in college and 4 years in the Navy show band, I had the first trumpet player before me on the Kenton band heard me play in San Francisco, and so they had me come to LA for an audition. And this was April of 1970. So I go down for an audition, and they say, "You did really good, but, we have other people to audition." And I'm thinking, yeah, don't call us, we'll call you. But at least I got a chance. So about a week later, I get a call from Dick Shearer, the road manager, and he says, "Well, we'd like you to join the band, and we leave May 2nd on tour." This is April of 1970. And my heart sank, and I said, "But I don't get out of the Navy till the fall." And I hear him talking to Stan Kenton. Stan gets on the phone, and says, we'd really like to have you on the band. Let me make a few phone calls. To this day, I don't know who he called. At that point, he might have called President Nixon. He knew everybody. I was out of the Navy May 1st, and I joined the band May 2nd. And I guess the kicker to that story is because I became so involved with all of the Kenton stuff that I have now been leading the Stan Kenton Legacy Orchestra for the past 32 years, and it's one of the last touring big bands. In fact, we'll be touring in the next April. We played here at the Elks. We played, I forget how many years ago it was, but we played downstairs. So anyway, you know, it's like stories that schooled you and changed your life. Had I not gone to that clinic in 1960, I'd have had a steady job as a classical player.